In this video, I'm dropping my camera 300 feet deep on a battleship, and what we saw down there was unbelievable. So without further ado, let's get right into this video. We make a 7-mile run out of Hillsborough Inlet down to Fort Lauderdale. Once we get down there, we position the boat to set up for our first drift. And on this day, we had some awesome conditions, making it really great for deep dropping. So the first thing we need for our rig is this underwater camera. Once we rig that up to our chicken rig, we start attaching our squid to these hooks, and squid is the best bait when you're doing deep dropping just because it holds on the hook so well. Once we rigged up our squid, my dad positioned us on this wreck and we were marking a ton of fish, and now we drop the camera down 300 feet deep. The best part about dropping 300 feet deep is you guys are going to see we hit the bottom extremely fast. In our other videos, when we drop 600 feet deep, it could take up to 3 to 4 minutes just at the bottom. So we're now about to hit this battleship, and we positioned the boat perfectly on this one. We were able to land right on top of this battleship. So now that we hit bottom, you guys are going to see how fast these vermilion snapper come to the camera. It took us about 10 seconds of sitting on the bottom, and we were already surrounded by these snappers. So you guys can now see that first vermilion snapper, and then this giant lionfish was on the bottom left of our screen there. So these snappers were now surrounding our bait. I would say we had 5 or 6 of these snappers around the camera. And on this day, you guys are going to notice we had the wrong chicken rig. The right rig we left at home, so I just made one up at sea, and it definitely did not work. We should have caught multiple of these snapper on this day. As you guys can see, they're just eating the squid and then spitting it right out. And on a normal deep drop rig, that wouldn't happen. So here it looks like we had one, and I slowly started to bring him up, and then he pulled off. So we continued to slowly drift, and at this point, I would say we lost a good amount of our squid, but we still had enough to catch a fish. And this is what these bites look like on top of water. So the really small, subtle bites, but right here, you're going to see that rod tip move a little, and that's how you know a fish is hitting your bait. So we're now about 2 minutes into our first drift, and this first drift just shows you if you have the wrong rig, you aren't going to catch a lot. If we had the right rig on this day, we probably would have had 5 snapper on our first drop. Luckily, it looks like we have our first fish here, and this was a nice size vermilion snapper, and honestly, I wasn't bringing it up because I wasn't sure we had him on, but then once he made this little run, I started slowly bringing this fish up. And these vermilion snapper are some of the best tasting snapper. You just need a bunch of them because once you fillet them, you don't get a lot of meat from them. It took us about 3 minutes to get this fish to the boat, and if you guys enjoy underwater content, drop a sub. We're trying to explore the ocean video by video. So we now had this fish right under the boat, and we were successfully able to land this beautiful vermilion snapper. So we put him in the cooler, and then we reset our rig for drop number 2. We now start making our way down to the bottom. We are now about 20 seconds off the bottom, and on this drop, you guys are going to notice we positioned on the other side of this battleship. But luckily, we didn't get snagged on either drop, which was really nice because on this battleship, there was a lot of places that probably could snag our rig. So again, it took us about 10 seconds before these snappers started showing up. And you guys are going to see in about 5 seconds here, one of these vermilion snapper, it looks like he hit right off the start, and he was able to just pull right off the hook. We are now surrounded by snapper again, and on this drop, it looks like there are more snapper than our first drop. We got about 10 or 15 snapper around our bait. And then that brown snapper you guys just saw, that's a mangrove snapper, and those are also delicious eating fish. At this point now, I would say 3 of our hooks have no squid on them just because these hooks are way too big for these snapper. These fish were just getting a free meal at this point. And this battleship we were fishing on this day was out in 300 feet of water. It's a public wreck right off Fort Lauderdale. A lot of people fish here for these vermilion snappers. And as you guys can see, now that we dropped the camera down here, there's a reason why everybody fishes here. There are so many snappers. It went a little quiet now. There weren't any snappers around us, and that's probably because most of our squid was already gone. You guys can see we're missing squid on 2 hooks now. And then this vermilion snapper came around, and this was a nice sized one, and he ended up hitting one of our squids, and finally we were able to hook into one of these vermilion snapper. This fish went nuts once we hooked him, and you guys can see behind him there were still so many vermilion snapper down there. But we slowly started bringing this fish up, and these vermilion snapper go crazy once you hook them, so you want to bring them in as fast as possible. If you leave them down there too long, they're going to end up getting off your hooks. And luckily on this day we were able to land a couple of these vermilion snapper, so we now had this fish right near the boat, and we were successfully able to land vermilion snapper number 2. But we hope you guys enjoyed this underwater fishing video, and we hope to see you in the next Barjacks fishing video.